Hey, what's up, YouTube fans? So the topic for this video, right, is the process of evolution by natural selection, right? Which I personally think is the single most interesting thing that I ever learned about in my whole life, right? I first learned about it when I was 13 years old. Ever since then, I have been completely fascinated by it. One of the biggest misconceptions about evolution, right, is that people will think that it's a matter of saying that that various living things, including humans, came to have our bodies set up as we are by random chance. That, just randomly, for no reason whatsoever, just by pure chance, that we just came to be set up so well, right? That it just, by pure luck, pure random chance, happened, right? And so they'll think that we're not aware of how well set up the body is, right? Um, but that's actually not what it's a matter of, right? No one is saying that the bodies of living things came to be set up as they are by random chance. We're all aware of how well set up the human body is, right? No one is saying that it's a matter of random chance, right? What we're saying is that it's a matter of evolution by natural selection, which is not a process of random chance, right? So why would that be? How does it work? Well, allow me to explain, right? So all living things, including humans, reproduce, right? All species of living things do, right? So like when a human gives birth to a baby, or a seed comes off of a tree that grows into a new tree, or a bird lays an egg and a new bird comes out, all of these things are reproducing, right? So they create living things, have the ability to create a new living thing which inherits many traits which the parent organism had, right? So you guys would likely have noticed, right, that people with red hair, for example, are more likely to make a baby that has red hair than people that don't have red hair, right? People who people who have brown skin and they make a baby, the baby is more likely to come out with brown skin than if people with my skin color, two people with my skin color make a baby, the baby isn't likely to come out with brown skin, right? And those are relatively trivial examples, but then there's also even some more rare traits, such as that, some people in rare instances can be born with extra fingers or toes, like, so they have like 6 fingers on one hand, and that's actually an inheritable trait, right? So oftentimes when people with that trait make a baby, the baby will come out the same way, also having 6 fingers on one hand, right? And so when living things create a new organism, the new organism inherits traits from the parent organism, right? And within any species, there will be variations of inheritable traits, right? So inheritable traits that some of them have, but which others do not, right? And that much is a matter of random chance, right? The fact that there are differing variations that exist within populations of organisms, the way that we get differing variations, it is a matter of random chance. not completely random chance, but, mostly it's a matter of random chance. There's certain mutations that are more likely than others to occur, but it's basically, you could call it a matter of random chance. But what's not a matter of random chance is that some of these variations of traits that exist within a population of organisms will have an effect on the likelihood of the organism with the trait being successful at producing offspring, right? Offspring meaning that's what we call it when they make a new organism, right? It's called its offspring, right? And certain traits, right, will make an organism more likely to produce offspring, right? Because not all organisms will produce offspring. Within any species, some of the organisms will produce offspring and some will not, right? Um and so if you think about it for a second, it shouldn't be too hard to understand why it will be that certain organisms traits would make them more likely to produce offspring than other organisms. Living things, they're competing for resources like food and water, and they're trying to avoid threats such as other animals that want to eat them, things of that nature, right? And so, if an animal like a mouse or whatever, suppose that it happens to have a trait that makes its eyesight better than others, right? Within any population, some will have better eyesight than others, right? That's the case for humans, right? The person with the best eyesight ever, you guys could look this up, they have significantly better eyesight than most people have, right? And that was just a matter of random chance. Given enough individuals, some will happen to have traits that are better at doing various things like seeing, right? And so when there is such an individual that has it happens to be born with an inheritable trait that makes its eyesight better than most within the species, what we can therefore, the fact that they were born with that trait was a matter of random chance, right? But then what isn't a matter of random chance, right, is that then individuals with better eyesight, they will oftentimes, for many species, they will be more likely to successfully produce offspring than individuals with more cruddy eyesight, right? Because, if you're trying to like outrun a predator, you're trying to find the food you need, right? It shouldn't be too hard to understand, if you think about it, that individuals with better eyesight will be more likely to survive, especially for, animals that are out in the jungle fighting for their survival, out in the elements. It doesn't have to be the jungle, whatever environment. It isn't as much the case for us humans now, because us humans, we've invented things like glasses, right? So if someone has less good eyesight, it isn't really so much of a problem. And, we're not really out fighting for survival. At least, people in like where I live aren't, right? Like we're past that point. We don't live out in we're not out like in nature fighting for our survival. We've invented enough technology that we don't have to worry about that. But most animals do, right? They're running from predators, like, oh, there's a lion that is chasing me and wants to eat me, right? For some animals, that's their day-to-day life, that's their day-to-day reality, that they're getting chased down by a lion and trying to not be the zebra that gets eaten. One of the zebras is going to be the one that gets eaten. Is it going to be you today, or will it be another zebra, right? And which zebras are the one that doesn't get eaten? That's oftentimes thanks to certain traits that they happen to be born with, like, oh, this zebra happens to have better eyesight than most, therefore it's more likely to escape the lion, right? And therefore it's more likely to live to the point of making a baby zebra, right? So certain individuals within a species will have traits that make them more likely to produce offspring than other organisms that don't have the trait, right? And therefore, if it is an inheritable trait, then their offspring can be expected to inherit the trait, right? And so therefore, if they're producing more offspring than other organisms within this same species that don't have the trait, then we can expect that by the next generation, a higher percentage of organisms within the population will have the trait, right? And this could then continue on and on, generation after generation, right? And most scientists agree that life on Earth has existed for billions of years, right? And animals have existed for hundreds of millions of years, right? And so it should start to make sense to you then, if you're understanding what I'm saying here, right? That, over time, the individuals, if the individuals with better eyesight keep on being the ones that produce offspring they keep being the ones that are more likely to produce offspring generation after generation, again and again and again, over hundreds of millions of years, right? Then over time we could expect that the species eyesight would get better, right? And then if another individual is also born with another trait that also improves the eyesight, then the same thing could happen, right? And so it happens again and again and again. It adds up over time, right? And so therefore, we can expect, right, that all of the species on the Earth today will be set up in a very non-random way, right? We're not just thrown together in an arbitrary way with no use, right? We're, all living things are set up remarkably well, right? But what it comes down to, right, is that it's because our ancestors, all of the traits that we have, the reason why we have them is because they helped our ancestors to produce offspring, right? So, I mean, take a second and think about it, that every single one of your ancestors, without exception, successfully produced offspring, right? Even though every generation there were some individuals that didn't produce offspring, right? But the fact that you're here right now means that every single one of your ancestors, every generation without exception, successfully produced offspring, right? So therefore, we can logically expect then that the individuals that are here right now would have a very non-random sampling of the traits that occurred within the species over time, right? Because every single person alive today, and same with any other species, every single dog alive today, etc., we're part of an unbroken line of ancestry, right? Every single generation, our ancestors produced offspring, whereas every generation, though, there were some individuals within the species that didn't produce offspring, right? Now, there are some responses to this by people wanting to deny evolution, where they will say that they think that evolutionary processes cannot explain certain biological systems like the digestive system or the circulatory system, whatever, because they think that even that they, some creationists, they understand what I just said, all of that I just explained, but they think that certain biological systems need to have all the parts in them at once, or else they don't work. And so therefore they think that evolutionary processes can't explain them. And that's why I've been making a series of videos lately where I've been explaining how differing biological systems that they claim are irreducibly complex actually aren't, right? So on my channel, you could see videos where I break down step by step, you know, the evolution of the digestive system, for example, right? And I explain, you know, that this is what it would have been at this step, right? And I give examples of creatures alive today that are like that, which therefore proves that that setup is useful in its own right. And so now there are some aspects of life that have not yet been explained by evolutionary processes. The origin of life has not yet been explained by evolutionary processes, right? But that is not a problem for the theory of evolution, because the theory of evolution does not say anything about the origin of life, right? But there's potential for evolutionary explanations to explain the origin of life. I'm not going to get too much into that in this video because that's not really the topic of this video. But what's really ironic about like how creationists will like think that we're saying that living things came to be set up by random chance is that they're actually the ones that think that something super perfect and even greater than humans exists by random chance, right? Because they think that a God exists by random chance. And so, you know, anytime that they talk about like how complex our eyes are set up, I want to know, like, so do you not think that God has eyes? Does he not have a brain, arms, fingers, any sensory organs? If he doesn't, I have a problem with your idea of intelligent design then, because you know, every example they could give me of something intelligently designed, whether it's a mouse trap or a watch or whatever, every single one of these things is made by a human, right? And the whole reason, the, you know, fundamental to human skillfulness in intelligently designing things is that we have highly complex sensory organs, brain, arms, and fingers, right? And so without that, creationists have no model for how God intelligently designs things. They can't explain how he does, nor do they have anything that they can experimentally demonstrate as a possibility, right? So they're just appealing to a mysterious thing that they can't explain. That's not an explanation, right? And so when it comes to the origin of life, yes, science doesn't yet know what the answer is, but religion does not offer any explanation either, right? Because if God doesn't have a brain, sensory organs, arms, or fingers, then they have no idea whatsoever how God designed life, right? They are just as much clueless about it as anyone else. They don't actually have a model for how it happened. And if God does have those things, then there would have to be an explanation for why he himself is set up so well, because it would be astronomically improbable that he would just be set up like that by random chance, right? And so, yeah, that's all for now. See you guys.